All right. As I said, this is the Critical Language Scholarship presentation as part of our International Education Week. So I know you all made it here. This is one of our early Education Week events. I'll share the schedule at the end so that you can see that as well. And maybe there's some other events that might catch your interest. So first of all, I wanted to share an agenda. So welcome, everyone. So first off, I'm going to give you an introduction to our Fellowships Advising and Mentorship unit within the International Program Center, so you get to know us a little bit better, and I'll introduce myself more formally in a moment. The Critical Language Scholarship Program overview, benefits of participating, application tips, and then of course we will open it up for questions. So who are we? So first off, hello, I'm Heidi Bretz. I use she, her pronouns, and I am one of the assistant directors for study abroad and exchanges in the International Program Center at UNCG. I have two primary roles within that office. One is to serve as the faculty-led programs coordinator for faculty who are planning to lead short-term study abroad programs, so I help them to develop those. And then more recently, I've stepped into this role of fellowships advisor. So I advise for programs that are nationally competitive, scholarships and fellowships, including the Critical Language Scholarship Program. So that's a little bit about me. So about our unit, we're part of the UNCG International Program Center. We are a newer unit, so we're happy to have you spread the word to your friends about the fellowships, advising, and mentorship. We support UNCG graduates, undergraduate students, graduate students, and recent graduates and alumni applying for nationally competitive scholarships and fellowships, and again, including the Critical Language Scholarship Program. And we offer full application cycle support from helping you to select a scholarship through your application. We provide editing and feedback on your information, and then of course up to final submission and continued support if you are selected for a program, or if you are not selected and decide to apply again. We're here for you during all of those different stages of the application process. And so when we talk about applying for these opportunities, really it's more about that process. So yes, of course, there is the scholarship, the funding, the experience, and that's a wonderful, obviously a driving factor for applying for these nationally competitive scholarships and fellowships. But really, it's also an opportunity for you to reflect on your academic and life experiences, learn how to write persuasive and effective essays, and expand your personal and professional networks. A lot of these scholarships and fellowships encourage you to work with faculty from across campus. So you're building campus relationships, you're building relationships with the Writing Center, with our office, with Career Services, and also you're really narrowing down what your goals are for yourself. And that can be really helpful, especially if you are planning to apply later for grad school or for other types of prestigious scholarships. This is great practice for that. So hopefully you will find the process as rewarding as we think you will. So specifically for the Critical Language Scholarship Program. So what is it? It is a summer study abroad program, 6 to 8 weeks typically. It's for US students in all fields of study, so you don't necessarily have to be majoring in a language or even have experience with the language that you're interested in order to participate in this program. And it is fully funded by the US government. So the US government actually pays for the entirety of the program. They give you a stipend for meals, so you shouldn't have to pay too many things out of pocket to participate in this experience. The only exceptions to what they fund are your passport fees and then any medical exams that you would need before you go abroad. But other than that, completely funded by the program for a 6 to 8 week international learning experience. So the Critical Language Scholarship Program is unique in that it focuses on less commonly taught and studied languages that are taught on US college campuses. So for Spanish, French, sorry, we don't offer programs for that, but for some of the less commonly taught languages where you might not have the opportunity to really intensively study them otherwise, this program can be a really great fit for you. The languages are selected for their connection to the US's national security and economic prosperity goals, and really are seen as languages that are critical need for US citizens to be able to speak and to communicate in. And it prepares US students to compete in a globalized workforce, which of course, anywhere you go right now, globalized workforces. So definitely a good preparation experience there. So which languages does the Critical Language Scholarship Program cover? So there are some languages that do require a little bit of additional experience, and there are some that don't require any experience with the language at all. Those which don't require any prior language experience are Azerbaijani, Bangla, Hindi, Indonesian, Persian, Punjabi, Swahili, Turkish, and Urdu. So if you're interested in studying any of those languages, you don't have to have taken any official language study prior to applying for those. For some of the languages that may be a little bit more commonly taught, and in fact, some of them are taught at UNCG, there is a year or the equivalent of a year of college study required before you can apply for the program. So you'll apply for the program at an advanced beginning level or up. So those languages are Arabic. I know we offer Arabic at UNCG now. Korean also offered. Portuguese, which is one that we don't have at UNCG, but they do want you to have a year's worth or equivalent of experience with the Portuguese language, and Russian. And then finally, some of the more commonly taught languages, Chinese and Japanese, they actually require you to have a two years of study prior to applying to the program. And these are by the time you begin the program. So if you're in Arabic 101 now and you're taking 102 next semester, then you would be eligible to apply for the advanced beginning Arabic for next summer, for example. So again, this program is fully funded. So that includes your domestic travel. They have an orientation in Washington, D.C. for a couple of days, and you actually leave as a group from Washington, D.C. to go to your destination country. It includes that round trip international airfare, any visa fees that you would have for the country in which you're studying, housing and meals. That housing is usually in a host family situation, which is actually a really valuable part of the program. And you'll have the opportunity to live with a host family and experience family life in that country. It'll include your classroom instruction, cultural programming, and group trips I think pretty much every weekend you'll go on some sort of a cultural excursion. One thing I didn't mention earlier in the program is I actually received a critical language scholarship myself when I was an undergrad for Arabic back when they offered complete beginner Arabic. And every weekend we would go to a different part of the country I was in, Tunisia, and we would do cultural programming there. So it's very fast paced, but that is all included in your funding that you get for this program. And then finally, you will get some academic credit if you so choose. The accrediting or the institution of record is Bryn Mawr College. Their credits are a little bit different from what is offered at UNCG, but typically they offer you 2 units of language credit, so the equivalent of a full year of college study. So if you are accepted to this program and you do get that transcript, then you would work with the registrar's office to apply that as transfer credit since it is from a US institution of record. And as I said, the only things that are not included in that full funding for this program is going to be the passport fee itself. So they want you to be expecting to cover that $135, $145 passport fee. And then they do require that you undergo some medical examinations just to make sure you're in good health before you go abroad, vaccinations, things like that. So those are also not included in this program.
May I ask
Oh, hello. Sorry, one moment. Yes, I had heard a question.
I had to come in late because my class just ended, but what are the locations that we can go to?
Sure. Yes, I can definitely look at that. So the Critical Language Scholarship is a structured program. So they have connected with these different language institutions in different countries to teach these languages. So you go to whatever institution is associated with the language. So you actually apply for the language you're interested in and not necessarily a specific country. For example, I know Russian for the past few years has not actually been in Russia. They have had programs, I think, in Azerbaijan, mostly for the Russian because Russia wasn't really considered the best location in terms of health and safety for students to go. So with these different languages, the locations will change from year to year. So you'll apply for a language and then they will place you in a location that is the best fit for that.
Do we have a list list of which languages are available right now?
Yes, let me go back to that so you can see it. Yes, so these are the languages that are available. So these are the critical languages that the US has defined as a priority for US citizens to learn and that may not be commonly taught across the United States. So the ones that are in gold, you don't have to have any previous language experience to study those languages. The dark blue requires 1 year or equivalent of college level study. So that would be Arabic 101, 102, for example. And the turquoise languages, Chinese and Japanese, they do need 2 years of study. So either at the potentially at the college level, but I know some high schools now do also teach Chinese and Japanese, but they want you to have 2 years of study or the equivalent for that. And then
Thank you.
these are the, oh, hello?
I just said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and this will be recorded and it will be emailed out to all participants and posted. So you'll be able to go back and catch anything that you might have missed. So with the Critical Language Scholarship, they are partner institutions and each of them host up to 30 CLS students. So these are fairly small programs and each of them has like a cohort of students ranging anywhere from 15 all the way up to 30 students. Everyone shares the same weekly schedule. It is very intensive. You have 20 hours of language classes every week. So that's 4 hours a day plus an additional like 4 hours of homework. So be prepared to make this basically your full-time job for the summer. They do have cultural activities and local excursions. Sometimes if there are local dialects of the language, they may even have dialect classes as well. And they do have like clubs and other experiences that you can be a part of. And then of course, those weekend overnight group trips, which are going to be pretty much every weekend during the program for the 6 to 8 weeks that you are abroad. And these programs are designed for language gains and cultural immersion. So they are very, very intensive. You apply for the language, not necessarily a country, like I was saying. They do have a language policy. So for some of those programs that don't require experience in the language, they may wait a couple of weeks to put into place the language policy. But for those of you who have a little bit more experience, you're studying those languages that require 2 years of previous study, they actually have you sign a language pledge, which says that you will only speak in the target language. So be prepared not to speak any English all summer. And that's really the best way to learn a language is to be forced to speak it and to be immersed in it through classes, through a host family. Most students will have host families that they live with, and the host family may or may not speak any English. So be prepared for that. And they also will pair you up with a language partner so you'll get some chances to practice. So this is a very intensive, very structured program. So they want you to know that going in to this scholarship. So as we were saying, up to 30 students are in each location, and they do participate as a cohort. So you have other folks that are studying from across the country. They can be at different levels in terms of language. They may have had a little bit of experience or not any experience, depending on which language you have chosen to study. They'll be from all different states. And also, this program is open to students at any stage of study. So as long as you're enrolled in a degree seeking program at an US institution, you're eligible for this program. So if you're an undergrad, freshman year, want to go abroad, apply for the critical language scholarship, you could be studying with someone who's getting their PhD. So it goes throughout all of the cycles of education from undergraduate to graduate to PhD level study. And so there will be different levels of experience with language and travel. They do actually prioritize folks who have not traveled extensively actually for this program because they really see it as an opportunity to help you do some traveling. And again, undergraduate and graduate students, they represent all types of institutions, small private, large public, and everything in between, and regions of the United States. And as of 2019, 40% of students who received the Critical Language Scholarship identify as students of color, so a very racially diverse group. And then also 24% of those have been identified as Pell Grant recipients, which indicates some financial needs. So definitely a very diverse cohort. And of course, CLS does not discriminate on the basis of disability or medical condition. And at each program site, there will be a resident director who has a lot of experience with the language, with teaching, with the country, and is there to offer support in addition to your program staff and instructors. And again, program benefits is you are going to make rapid gains in language skills. So this is a very intensive program. Like I said, 4 hours of instruction every week, 4 hours of homework on top of that, the language policy, the language pledge. You're going to be very immersed in this language, and you'll complete basically a year's worth of academic study in about 6 to 8 weeks. And you will receive academic credit for that. Like I said, you will receive academic credit through Bryn Mawr as the institution of record, and you can transfer your credits to UNCG that way. You will receive also an OPI certificate at the end of the program to demonstrate your progress. So that's going to say where you are at the end of your language learning. And personally, I know when I went, I couldn't read the Arabic alphabet at all. I didn't know how to speak a word of Arabic, and I came out with an intermediate level of proficiency and could hold conversations with people. So, I mean, this is a very intensive program, and it's designed to help you really learn those languages. And of course, this is a great way to advance your career because a lot of US companies give advantage to candidates with language skills, especially skills in languages that are less commonly taught. I mean, I don't know personally many folks who speak Azerbaijani, so I would think that that would be definitely a defining factor in your job hunting post-college. And then also studying abroad itself builds experience in problem solving, communications, and other employable skills. You'll also build international relationships. So you will be in a cohort. So it's a very intensive experience, great way to build relationships. You will have this immersive cultural experience with folks who are from the host country that you're studying in, and you'll have that host family, which helps you to build relationships there as well. And you will also learn to effectively collaborate and communicate with people in cross-cultural settings. I would also add that this is a great way to practice your conflict resolution skills because you will be in close proximity to the same 30 people for a good 2 months over the summer. So really, really good at helping you to navigate relationships and to really solve, learn creative problem solving techniques as well. And then finally, like I said in the beginning, one of the perks of applying for these prestigious scholarships is the networks that you gain. So you will join a network of successful alumni, and you'll be able to access a bunch of different resources, alumni resources, events, job postings. And if you are considering a career in the US government after your education is done, alumni of the CLS program do receive non-competitive eligibility for US government jobs, which makes it a little bit easier to get into that field if you are interested in pursuing government work. So, what are the next steps? So the application is open now for the Critical Language Scholarship Program for next summer. So you're going to want to go ahead and start your application if you're thinking about it. It will be due on November 17th at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's our local time here in Greensboro. But you do want to make sure that you are working on it way in advance of that. And especially if you want our office's help with proofreading your essays, with talking about planning what you'll say, what you might focus on in your essays, you'll want to start that process now and definitely be in communication with our office. You will apply for one language, so don't try to apply to Arabic and Azerbaijani. You got to pick one. And again, you're applying to the language, not the country. And as an applicant, you must prepare an unofficial transcript, one recommendation form. So start thinking about who you might want that recommendation to come from. You really want it to be from someone who knows you and knows your work ethic and knows your capacity for language learning. That's really important in demonstrating to the selection panel that you are a good applicant for this program. There are a number of short answer essays that are between 200 and 300 words. Those essays focus on your preparation for intensive language study, your reasoning for wanting to pursue this language, your ability to demonstrate your resilience, how you overcome problems or have overcome obstacles in the past. And then I'm blanking on the fourth one. Oh, how you'll continue your language studies after your program. And it is really important when you're applying to this program to have a plan for how you will continue those language studies, because if you don't, then you'll turn into me, who went on this amazing, fabulous government program and then promptly lost a lot of those Arabic skills. So definitely make sure you have a plan to keep your language learning going, whether that's by connecting with local communities, by staying in contact with language partners, going to different universities, online learning, some sort of tutoring programs. Start thinking about how next August you'll be continuing your language studies. And then, of course, a personal statement that really helps the selection committee to understand who you are and why you are the perfect fit for this opportunity. So again, how to succeed. So the ideal CLS candidates come from all academic disciplines. So if you're in math, if you are in business, if you're in education, though they're really looking for not only diversity in racial makeup and region that you come from in the United States, they're looking for that diversity of academic areas of study. So any academic background comes from all other backgrounds and are interested in representing the US abroad, you will be definitely seen as an ambassador while you are there. You'll get a lot of questions about being an American, about American points of view, about American life. So be prepared to serve in that ambassadorial role. Demonstrate that you understand the program and how intense it is and are prepared to succeed in that program. So really having strategies that you've identified that are going to help you when you are engaging in this really intensive language learning program. Show that you're excited and motivated to begin or continue learning a critical language. And again, having a plan for how to prepare for your language experience as well as how to continue your language learning when you come back does a lot to show your motivations. And then finally, make a clear connection between the target language and your future career plans. They really are looking for folks who want to study Swahili because they want to work in a specific area in Africa with, I don't know, USAID. So definitely making sure that you have a clear connection between why you're learning this specific language and what you hope to specifically do later. Of course, having a future career plan, they're not going to come after you 10 years from now and be like, hey, are you doing this program or this job that you said you wanted to do when you were 20 years old? They won't necessarily be doing that. But you do want to show how it's going to benefit you in the future and also why the government should invest in you as a candidate for this program and how basically you'll offer a return on that investment for the US and its interests. And do your homework. I think one of the biggest missteps I see from applicants in applying for these nationally competitive international and national fellowships and scholarships is really not doing the research and not answering the question. So there are those 4 short answer questions, that personal essay. You need to make sure that you're answering what they're asking. So it's really important that you read over those, you understand them thoroughly. If you have questions that you ask, because the closer you can answer that question, the more likely you are to succeed. So do research on how to answer those questions and also how to connect the career path that you're on, what you're thinking of doing, to the language or culture you're proposing to study. The Critical Language Scholarship does have a lot of really good resources. They have a YouTube channel that offers videos with tips on applying. They have different meetings that they've actually recorded for each individual language. So you can watch those, kind of see what you can expect from the program. They have alumni interviews. So really take advantage of those resources that are available to you and do your research. And then also seek help on your campus from us and from others. So again, the fellowships, advising, and mentorship, we do, again, read over application essays. We can talk with you about your kind of how you want to frame your application, what your goals are, how to translate those into a competitive scholarship application. So please feel free to reach out to us and I'll tell you how you can do that in just a moment. If you have any faculty that you feel really strongly connected to, if you have faculty that have taught you in languages before, they're a really good resource. Ask them to read over your essays or maybe to offer advice on what you might want to talk about in your application. Academic advisors are another good source of feedback. And then finally, the Writing Center. You want to make sure that you're using the Writing Center and perhaps multiple times. So we have about 3 weeks before the deadline, so that should be enough time for you to draft those essays and of course get them reviewed multiple times by the Writing Center. And really what we encourage you to do with the writing centers is to go back multiple times. One, because you might get other people, and having fresh eyes on your application essays is always a good thing, because then you can figure out how you're appearing to multiple audiences, but also that will just help you refine your application essay so that you can put forward your strongest possible application. So what's the timeline? The application is open now. So if you're interested, again, you can go ahead and open that application. I'll show you where it is on the Critical Language Scholarship website. The deadline is November 17th, 8:00 p.m. That is a merciless deadline. It waits for no one. So make sure that you are planning in advance of how you're going to submit your application. And I would recommend doing it before 7:59, because with any scholarship that you're going to apply for, the system always tends to slow down the day of the deadline, and especially as it gets closer to about 8:00, it's definitely better to submit earlier and be sure that you have time to resolve any technical issues that you may have. Recommendations are due a couple of days later from that recommendation form by November 20th. And then the committee will review your applications. You'll be notified if you're a semifinalist in late January, and then any finalists will be notified in March if they've been accepted to the program, and your program will begin in June and usually runs from June to August. So your next steps are going to be to go to fellowships.uncg.edu, which is our website for the fellowships advising and mentorship, and complete the inquiry form. And this puts you into our system, lets us know that you're interested, and that way we can reach back out to you to set up a time to talk about your application. And then start your application at Critical Language Scholarship or clscholarship.org. And then meet with me, the fellowships advisor. We'll talk about your plans. If you have drafts by that time that we meet together, you can bring those. I'm happy to review them. And then revise. The more eyes you can get on your application essays, the more you can have folks read it, the more you can revise it, the better your application is going to be. And then finally, submit your application by that deadline. So like I said, again, we are the Fellowships Advising and Mentorship Unit, and that is in the Faust building. We're not taking physical walk-ins right now, as are many folks on campus, but we are located in the historic Faust building for whenever we can see you again in person. But you can always get in touch with us virtually by going to our website, fellowships.uncg.edu, or you can email me, and my email is h_bretts@uncg.edu. And then if you do have other questions or want to learn more from the Critical Language Scholarship Program itself, they do have an email and then, of course, a website as well as social media that you can follow. So I am going to go ahead and stop my presentation and take questions from y'all. Okay, are the academic credits only for undergraduate students? That's a good question. I am not sure. I wouldn't think so, but I'm not sure how they offer those credits. So that might be a good one to send to the CLS email. Other questions? And I think someone's talking. I can't hear you. Azaria, were you talking? Sorry, you were on mute. Hello?
I'm muted.
Okay, sorry, I thought I saw you talking. Oh, okay. All right, other questions? Okay, let's see here. Possible to look over statement of purpose? Yes. So as I said, our office can help you with your essays. So we can look over those short answer questions, the 200 to 300 word essay questions, and then also your statement of purpose as well. Once you start an inquiry with our office, either by submitting the inquiry form or by opening up an application in the Critical Language Scholarship portal, then I will create a folder for you in Google Docs, and it'll be your folder, and you can upload things there for me to review and to offer feedback on. And let me go ahead and show you the Critical Language Scholarship website, and then also where you can find that inquiry form that I've mentioned. Yeah, and if you do have questions, feel free to unmute yourself because I can't necessarily see everybody. All right, so here is the Critical Language Scholarship Program website, clscholarship.org. If you want to open up your application, you can click right here, apply for CLS, or over here. And then, of course, they have different resources for applicants, and there actually is a full, oh, we have another question, a couple of different resources that you can download that will give you an idea of what they're looking for and how to submit, everything like that. So it'll tell you who can apply, getting help with your application, application tips videos. So once you are ready to kind of start your process with our office, you'll go to fellowships.uncg.edu and fill out our inquiry form, which is right here. And that will just be an inquiry form. You'll give us some of your basic information, and this will let our office know that you are interested in applying for a critical language scholarship, and we'll reach out to you about that. And then once I will put all of you in this shared Google Drive. Sorry, you're going to see some information kind of going up here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share this with y'all. So there is a CLS student resources folder that I've created. I'm going to put the link in the chat so y'all can have that link. And that will be kind of a quick resource guide for applying for the program. There are some different guides there. As you can see, there's a critical CLS application instructions that you can read. You can also find these on the CLS website, but they're buried a little bit. So I pulled them out and put them in this particular folder so that you all could have access to that. And then there is an essay worksheet. So you use this to kind of work through your different essays. As you can see, there are a few different questions. So questions on resilience. So how you've had to adapt to new environments or situations, and what your strategies are for interacting with people who are different than you. And again, this is very strategies and example based. So you're going to want to make sure to talk about specific instances that demonstrate your ability to adapt to new situations. Preparation for the CLS program, what you've been doing, what you think is going to be the most challenging for you, and what knowledge, skills, and experiences you've had in your life that you'll draw on to help meet these challenges. Citizen diplomacy. So again, one of the important parts of the critical language scholarship application is acting as an unofficial ambassador of the United States for folks. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're presenting one idea of America. The idea is for you to really come as your authentic self and showing the different sides of America and the different ways that Americans live and function in society. So really thinking about how your unique experience and perspectives might contribute to your cohort and to relations with your host culture that you're in. Then commitment to language study, again, how you will continue your language study after the program and what interests you about that specific language, why you chose it, and why you are applying for this particular program. And then finally, that statement of purpose, which is really going to be the place where you get to articulate what made you interested in this program, how it'll increase your language and cultural knowledge and help you achieve your future goals, why you've chosen this time to apply for this program, and then why they should invest in you. So what are you bringing to the program that's really going to be a good, to really, what's it going to be like a, sorry, not making any sense. So with that, what makes you a good investment for this program? So what other questions can I answer for y'all? Which languages are you thinking of studying?
For me, I'm applying for as we speak, and
Mm-hmm.
I chose Indonesian because I'm curious
Great.
about the code of the language, and
Mm-hmm.
it's actually see the essays and statement of purpose actually aren't easy. It takes work to
Right.
do, but it's actually coming along nicely, and I know who's filling out my letter of recommendation, so
That's
it's coming
great.
along very, very well. I feel confident in
Wonderful.
my abilities.
Great. Glad to hear it. Yeah, and Krista and I have been working a little bit together on the essays and on kind of deciding what points maybe to highlight in the application. So definitely can offer that to you all as well. And again, like these essays are short, and sometimes that makes it a lot harder actually, because you have to be very concise about what you're planning to focus on. Yeah, so I'm seeing Turkish and Korean as other examples. Swahili, awesome.
Yeah, so the writing center was really valuable for me because it made me highlight like some points I didn't quite answer or some stuff to take out. So it's really valuable. And it's like some things you're
Mhm.
gonna have to do revision because you don't specifically answer it. And sometimes you think that this is good, but it's like, no. Like it's actually really difficult, but it's kind of difficult, but it's really, really good.
Mhm. Yeah, and how many times have you been to the writing center?
I plan on going back on Friday to do one more review because I actually went for
Mhm.
advice. But to summarize, I tied in my Spanish learning
Mhm.
journey and tied how I'm going to implement it to Indonesian. So
Mhm.
I think I'm proud of going off of that prompt. And you'll see the essays and how they turn out later. But I'm proud of
Awesome.
tying that in as to really
Mhm.
sell myself.
Thank you. Any other questions? I know we had someone just join us. This recording will be posted and we'll make sure it gets emailed to you. So if you missed anything, you'll be able to review it at a later date.
Yeah, hi. I just joined. I
Uh-huh.
honestly didn't know anything about this program until like 5 seconds ago. I just saw the email.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
glad you're here.
yeah, thank you. I was wondering about
Mhm.
the Japanese program. I
Yes.
have taken previous Japanese courses.
Mhm.
Would that be built upon, or would I be starting over if I did do
Yes,
the program?
it would be built upon. So I'm going to share my screen again, if I can figure out how to minimize this. So with the Japanese language program, they actually require you to have the equivalent of 2 years of language study before you apply for the program. And then with that basis of Japanese knowledge, then you will continue to study. And they actually have a language policy. So you're actually only allowed to speak in your target language, especially at those higher levels of study. So you should be that should definitely build upon what you've already done, for sure.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Would it
Mhm.
would some of it would it be okay if some of it was like informal learning, or would it have to be 2 years of
Yes.
formal education?
So, what they want is for you to be able to demonstrate that you have the equivalent of 2 years of experience. So, that can be potentially college courses, or if you've had like other kind of informal Japanese language study, but really they want you to be able to demonstrate that you have the 2 years or the equivalent by the time you start your program. So, if you're still like 1.5 years in, or if you're just starting to take like a 200 level class, as long as you have the Japanese level you need completed by the time you start, which would be in June, then that should make you eligible.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm. And I know I have talked a lot about the Critical Language Scholarship Program, and this is one way that you can access overseas experiences. This is a great way because it is fully funded. If your goal is language learning, this is a great program for you. If you are interested in going abroad kind of for a semester or for a short-term program, since I do also work with the Study Abroad and Exchanges team, I can help with directing you to the resources for study abroad in general at UNCG. And with this, study abroad, the next application cycle will be opening soon on November 15th, and it will run from November 15th to February 15th for fall, summer, and academic year programs. So if you're interested in going to, say, Korea for next fall, you can go ahead and start looking at the Study Abroad website. And we do have a Study Abroad 101 tutorial that will give you more information about getting started with that process here at UNCG. And in terms of the different rates of acceptance for students, generally the Critical Language Scholarship has about 5,000 applicants that will apply for this program, and about 500 are selected. So that's about a 10% acceptance rate. Of course, that varies between different programs, different languages. There are some languages that are a little bit more competitive than others just because there's more interest. That being said, I would not try to game the system. Scholarships, they can come off as like being a numbers game, but they really aren't, because what's going to really make you stand out as an applicant is your connection to the area you're applying in. So if you, for example, again, are really interested in studying Portuguese because you want to build business relationships between North Carolina and Brazil, and you need Portuguese to be able to do that, then that's going to be a lot stronger argument than just trying to apply for Punjabi and not really having a reason to, other than the perception that there may be fewer applicants. So really, when you're thinking about these programs, you want to make sure that you have a strong connection to what you're applying for and that that's your main rationale for going. Other questions?
Not really a question, but to comment about that, it's really a good thing that you point out, because really it's about tying into why you want to do it and how it'll benefit you, and not just saying, it's for that you really shouldn't just act like you just picked from a list. You have to actually show that you have put a little bit of thought into it, and that's what I'm doing. And I read that the acceptance rate was less than 10%, so I applied ahead of time, and I'm working on it now. Like, I've been working on it, but still, I went on and got into it so I can get ahead of the game.
Very good. Yes, and you can apply for this multiple times. So if you apply for it this summer and you're not selected, you can apply again for the next year. And again, as long as you are in some type of degree granting program, so that can be an undergraduate, that can be graduate, or a PhD program, you're still eligible to apply for this. So if you apply now and say you're a graduating senior, that's not a problem, and you're going to go into master's program, you can apply for this summer. If you don't get it, then in your master's program, you can apply again. Other questions? All right, so if there aren't any other questions, we'll wrap up a few minutes early. Like I said, this will be recorded and emailed out to you all. Feel free to share with your friends. We'll also post it on our International Education Week portion of the website, and I'm going to try and get it on the fellowship's website as well, so we have that. And everyone got that link to that Google Drive folder that should be open to any people that have that link. So again, feel free to share. I will also post the video recording there. And other than that, I really hope to see your names on that inquiry form so that we can continue this conversation one-on-one about your critical language scholarship application. So thank you all for attending and for your great questions.
It's always the people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you think I could be emailed the information? I don't know if I'm on the information list.
Yes. Since you're in this email, you'll definitely be emailed. Or since you're in this meeting, you will definitely be emailed. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to stay on if you have more questions as well. Oh, okay.